Welcome to another scriptural study. In fact, another scriptural word study and scriptural calendar study, in which we together as one will go over three questions. Number one, why are there many attempting to replace the word moon with the word month? Number two, what then is a restored new moon day? Number three, is a new moon day set apart, or is a month set apart from a scriptural standpoint? So again, and as always, stop the video at any time to ensure that you can focus on all of the scriptural information being shared, backed up by the etymology, let alone the astronomical evidence. We're going to get into words such as Kodesh, month, or the word known as apartness, which is also pronounced Kodesh. Why? These are excellent questions. Furthermore, these scriptural study videos are not designed for a mobile phone. They're better to be viewed on a large screen, on a TV, if you will. Yes, an iPad will work, let alone a personal computer screen. So configure that screen to full view mode. And if you do not have that opportunity, we offer each and every one of these visuals through our email address at family1@rogers.com or a PDF link in the description box of each and every YouTube scriptural study video. So hopefully that helps. So we're going to talk about what are the intentions of people that want to change the word moon into the word month, and what is the impact of that non-scriptural effort as it relates to calendation. You know, numbering your days as per the Psalmist, chapter 90, verse 12, and as it relates to the very first page of Scripture with the sun, moon, and stars. What's the impact of changing words? So we're going to do a scriptural word study on both words known as month and our moon. So is it month or moon? Or a combination of both? And again, we're going to ask the question, why are the many, usually from a world religious mindset, attempting to replace the scriptural word moon with month? You'll notice in other scriptural study videos, we talked about what was known as replacement theology. Theo means God. Ology means knowledge. So we don't use that word anymore. We define it as replacement YaHUaH. We are going to do our best to go over the knowledge of YaHUaH in this case, with this word study as it relates to why the many are attempting to replace the scriptural word moon with the word month. These scriptural study videos, of course, and as always, are for only those who are led by abib, utilizing all three witnesses of the sun, moon, and stars to number their days, as per the psalmist in chapter 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days and let us bring the heart to wisdom. That word, wisdom, has much to do with the word moon, month, and how it operates. So let's get into this study, shall we? So right away, we come to the scriptural verse in Psalms chapter 136, verse 9, and I quote, "The moon and stars to rule by night, for his kindness is everlasting." Yes, and regrettably, let alone as horrifying as it is, some people replace this word with month. But in scriptures, this word is actually known anciently as YaHUaH. It's a noun, it's masculine. YaHUaH. Not YaHUaH, YaHUaH. And as you can see, there's the phonetic spelling, and it means moon. So you can't put a pagan, beastly, Roman Catholic monthly template on top of this word. Now, people will try, and there are various reasons that they do that. Remember, a monthly template does not rule by night with the stars. It's the lesser light known as the moon. So very basic, very easy to explain, because time by design demands that all three witnesses must be utilized to meet your scheduled appointments. As an example, even on a designed human wristwatch, you would not just use the hour hand. You would not just use the minute hand, let alone you would just not use the second hand. You have to utilize all three witnesses that measure different units of time, but when combined, allow you, or all of us, to meet our scheduled appointments. Yes, design demands a designer. This is human design. It's got nothing to do with our Father of Lights. But again, anything that is designed demands a designer. Something created demands a creator. So when we go through this scriptural study, think about the sun, moon, and stars, all three witnesses, that must be utilized to tell time. More specifically, the appointed times of YaHUaH, our Father of Lights, the only self-existent one. Again, we utilize the sun, moon, and stars. Because why? Because they were designed by YaHUaH, the Creator, to give us signs and appointed times, moedim, for days and years. And we can watch all of this, let alone film and photograph it, in the heavens, the Shamayim. And this is why the psalmist also stated, "Your witnesses are wonders, so my being observes them." Welcome to the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH, the sun, moon, and stars. No different than an approach with a simple man-made wristwatch. You utilize all three witnesses of light to tell time. Furthermore, when we read the moon and stars to rule by night, that's YaHUaH, the YaHUaH and stars to rule by night. It is no coincidence then that the scriptural stars that remain in what is known as the canon today, or the scriptural record, are the ones that we can actually see with the human eye, unaided. You don't need telescopes, binoculars, etc. And this is called the apparent magnitude chart or level. You can get it from earthsky.org. So the sun is about -26, the moon about -12. Sun is brighter than the moon. And the negative numbers, the higher the negative number, the easier it is to see that luminary. In this case, the orb, the sun, or the orb in regards to the full moon. The scriptural stars, all of these scriptural stars, fall in the range of 3 to approximately -1. Again, it is not coincidence. A handy guide to measuring the sky comes from timeanddate.com, and you can measure the predictable and steadfast, reliable movement of the sun, moon, and stars daily just with your hands. Your body, with your eyes and your hands and your fingers, has been designed to measure and monitor and tell time with the sun, moon, and stars. And this is why the psalmist also stated, "We give thanks to YaHUaH, our Father of Lights, for we are awesomely and wondrously made." Wondrous are the works of YaHUaH, the Father of Lights, and our being knows it well because we get outside and test and prove, and you can forecast it in advance. This is what it means to trust in YaHUaH with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. This scriptural study video is to approach why the many attempt to replace the word moon with month. Remember, there are solar-only calendars out there that do this, and they want to hide the purpose of the moon. The Gregorian system, from the Second Babylon in Rome, the beast, to this very day, has a solar calendar as well. They don't want you utilizing the moon. They don't want you utilizing, and they certainly don't want you utilizing the scriptural stars now, do they? They want you to trust them to tell time, not to trust in YaHUaH with all your heart. They want you to trust them. So on this YouTube channel, we're done with that. So we utilize all three witnesses of light with the sun, moon, and stars to tell time, the appointed times. But on this study, we're going to focus on the lesser light known as the moon, which is the word YaHUaH. So let's get into it. So again, the moon and stars to rule by night, for his kindness is everlasting. The word moon is not month here. It's YaHUaH. Moon. It's not month. So if you hear someone telling you this, you know it is indeed a lie, and easy to prove with the scriptural record as backed up by the etymological evidence. We go further to Psalms 104, verse 19, and I quote, "He made the moon, YaHUaH, for appointed times." And the sun knows it's going down. The going down in this case means entry point from the scriptural original word from the Strong's H3996 entry known as Mabo. So, he made the YaHUaH for appointed times, the Moedim, and the sun, the Shemesh, knows its entry point, or Mabo. If anyone is trying to tell you that they're trying to replace this word moon, YaHUaH, with a monthly Roman calendar template, then you know they're smoking crack. Something is wrong. They have a cognitive bias that is horrific. It's not even cognitive dissonance at this point. It's moved into something called cognitive bias. Again, some of you may perceive these comments to be extremely aggressive. They're not. It's just scriptural evidence as backed up by the language or etymological evidence. It's Scripture interpreting Scripture. Now, if you let mankind, men and women, interpret Scripture, well, then you'll change anything, and don't be surprised. Males are being changed into females, and females changed into males. In this day and age, in the days of Noah, once again, it's a free-for-all. It's the Yabba Dabba Do Hebrew movement, or crew, changing everything at will. So let's take a further look at the lesser light known as the moon or the YaHUaH. This is what the very first page of Scripture is talking about. Not a month. The lesser light is not a month. It's the moon that rules the night, as Scripture has already proven. And let's talk more about what it means and its association to appointed times, the very first page of Scripture. So again, Psalm 104, verse 19, "And he made the moon, the YaHUaH, for appointed times, Moedim." YaHUaH. It's not month, it's moon. And the moon was made for Moedim, the appointed times of YaHUaH, which includes new moon days, as we can read in chapter 66 of Isaiah, verse 23. And I quote, "And it shall be that from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares YaHUaH." So, the words new moon are Kodesh. Not Kadasha, not Kadash. It's Kodesh from the Strong's entry H2320. Again, it's a noun masculine, and the phonetic spelling is Kodesh. And it literally means new moon, a new month, the first day of any given month. And this is where the argument starts to come into play with cognitive bias mindsets, pharisaical mindsets that are parasitical. They don't do their diligence in rightly handling the word of truth. They are not full-fledged Bereans. Can we prove this? Well, Kadash means to renew, repair. Kadash, not Kadasha, Kadash. And it's the root word, Strong's H2320, which we just went over, which is Kodesh. And that's how Scripture utilizes these words. So Kadash means this moon is fully renewed. It's fully repaired. It's fully restored. A crescent moon is not fully restored, and a conjunction moon is not fully restored. We'll talk more about this. We come to 2 Melachim, or Kings, chapter 4, verse 23, and I quote, "And he said, Why are you going to him today? It is either the new moon nor the Sabbath." And once again, Kodesh is used. And what's basically being said here, it's not the first day of the month, nor the Sabbath. So why did this individual want to go to the temple? Well, if you read 2 Melachim chapter 4, verse 23, it is about the sorrowful mother who begged leave of her husband after the death of her child to go to the prophet YaHsome. YaHsome means the Almighty One is deliverance or salvation. And regrettably, non-scriptural Yabba Dabba Do Hebrew crew movements contracted that to YaHsome. The original was YaHsome, which means the Almighty One is salvation or deliverance, and that was the prophet's original name. So she was so distraught that she wanted to go to the temple and talk to the prophet YaHUaH for some comfort with the passing of her child. We get further information from Amos chapter 8, verse 5, saying, "When does the new moon pass so that we sell grain, and the Sabbath so that we trade our wheat, to make the ephah small and the shekel large, and to falsify the scales by deceit?" So these were salespeople. They had products and services to sell, and they were not on the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH. And it was a pain in the butt to them because it got in the way of their commerce, their trading. And as you all know, you can have a new moon, a 29th day, the fourth and final Sabbath of the month, and the next day could be a new moon day. And this could be very, very disadvantageous towards these people of commerce. And it got in the way of them selling. And as you know, we could have also a 30-day month. So you have a Sabbath on the 29th day, and then a 30th day. It's like a long weekend, so to speak, on the Gregorian. It really ticked them off. So stop the video, get into these scriptural study verses, and really flush them out. So remember, enjoy commercialism. Shop, shop, shop. Ho, ho, ho. To make the ephah small and the shekel large, and to falsify the scales by deceit. Remember, the sun, moon, and stars on the very first page of Scripture do not support any human calendar. It causes much distress in the circles of employment, in the way the world does it, let alone commercialism. It's problematic, and this is why these folks were complaining in Amos chapter 8, verse 5. Again, stop the video, read these, or go to the scriptures yourself. We further read in Nehemiah, now known today as Nehemiah, chapter 10, verse 33, "For the showbread," now we all know showbread was given during the festival of Shavuot, which is at the end of the fourth month. It's the only time period that the particular wheat that's harvested towards the end of the summer can actually make showbread. And for the continual grain offering and for the continual burnt offering of the Sabbaths of the new moons for the appointed times. We believe the first day of the fifth month is the closing out of Shavuot. So this witness is a further witness to that point, which we've shared in many scriptural study videos. The point I'm trying to make here as well is the word new moons is again Kodesh, the first day, in this case, of the fifth month. Kodesh represents the first day of any given scriptural month, not the whole entire month. And we'll talk more about this. So again, Kodesh, new moon, a new month, the first day of that new month, and in this case, the closing out of Shavuot, which is the first day of the fifth month. As we shared this year once again with the 7 Sabbath count, and then on the morrow of the 7 Sabbaths, the 50-day count to Shavuot. Stop the video, and you can see why this year was a 3-day celebration with the first day of the fifth month closing out Shavuot. So we know this because YaHUaH recorded Mashiach Yahushua's comments, and he made just before the first day of the first month of Abib, he made comments that there are going to be 4 months until the harvest comes. And he was talking about the showbread. And again, the harvest of wheat that produces the fine flour for showbread is not harvested in the springtime period from the winter wheat plant, but rather the showbread, the wheat is planted in the spring and then harvested 4 months later in the summer, or towards the end of the summer. So very basic to prove. And how do we do this? Well, we utilize the sun, moon, and stars, all 3 witnesses. And let's talk about how Nehemiah proves this as well for Shavuot. This brings us to YaHUaH, or John chapter 5, verse 1. After this, there was a festival, or an appointed time, Moedim, of the YaHUadim, and YaHushua went up to Jerusalem. Well, at the end of the day, this is the first day of the first month of Abib. How do we know this? Because after this, John 5:1, Yahushua went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and there he sat down with his taught ones, and the Passover was near, the festival of YaHUadim. So think about this. In John 5:1, he's going to the first day of the first month of Abib, in which the ark, as we read in Bereshith or Genesis chapter 8, verse 13, touches ground on the first day of the first month of Abib. That was a big consecrated day. New moon days are consecrated. They're set apart. They're separated. Some people don't like using the word set apart, so they're separated. They're consecrated. So this is why Yahushua stated after the quote he made in chapter 5, verse 1, he went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, sat down there with his taught ones, and the Passover was near. This is why that previous festival in chapter 5, verse 1 was the first day of the first month. New moon days are consecrated. They're festival days. They're a chag. Very easy to prove. And again, this is why we number our days accordingly. Mashiach Yahushua is our only teacher. We don't worry about what people say. We trust YaHUaH as best we can with all our hearts, minds, and beings. We don't let banter without backup take over. Again, iron sharpening iron is the word sharpening the word. We hang out with people that use scriptural verses and then get with other people with what they glean with other scriptural verses to verify a matter. So, Colossians, even the emissary Shaul, now known today as Paul, stated what? Let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking, or in respect of a festival, which includes a new moon or Sabbaths. And in this case, new moon actually means moon, not month. So we can get all of this if you just are not in a husha. Husha means to be in haste, to be in hurry, to be reckless, to be not diligent. Don't be in a husha. Number your days with Moshe's writings. Do a forecast. Get outside in the Shamayim with the sun, moon, and stars to see what those signs are for each of these days. So as you can see, Yahushua went to the festival, the first day of the first month. That's Bereshith or Genesis chapter 8, verse 13. And as we know from Isaiah chapter 66, verse 23, from new moon to new moon and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come and worship me. It's not month, it's the first day of a month. So from the first day of each and every month and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before YaHUaH. So pretty basic to explain. It gets even easier in the seventh month. We saw the psalmist in Psalm 81 verse 3 stating, blow the ram's horn at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our festival day. This is backed up by Bemidbar or Numbers chapter 29 verse 1. And in the seventh month, on the first day of the month, you have a set apart gathering. Very basic to explain. The first day of the seventh month. Kodesh is representing the first day of a month. It's not the word month, it's the first day of a month. So, blow the ram's horn at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our festival day. That's Kodesh, a new moon, a new month, the first day of that month. Just as Scripture says, it's an appointed time. And in the seventh month, on the first day of the month, you have a set-apart gathering. Ezra chapter 3 verse 4 states it this way, when looking at the whole month in regards to the festival of ingathering, now known today as Booths or Sukkot. Ezra chapter 3 verse 4 reads, and I quote, and they performed the festival of Booths as it is written, and the daily burnt offerings by number, according to the right ruling for each day. Well, the first day of the 7th month kicks things off. Verse 5 continues to read, and afterwards the continual burnt offering, and those for new moons, and for all the appointed times of YaHUaH. Once again, Kodesh, the first day of a new month, that are set apart. Kodesh. Those two words are pronounced the very same way. Not Kadash or Kadasha. Also for everyone who volunteered, a voluntary offering to YaHUaH. From the first day of the 7th month, they began to offer burnt offerings. Welcome to the real meaning of Strong's entry 2320 Kodesh, new moon, a new month, the first day of that given month. In this case, the 7th month leading up to the festival of ingathering, right from Yom Teruah to atonement and so forth. Again, the psalmist is clear. The moon, the YaRach, is for appointed times. Very basic. So, appointed times, what does that mean? Well, we get the Strong's entry of 4150. It's moed. Moed, appointed time, place, or meeting. And it comes from the root word known as YAHd. YAHd. So as you can see, the Yod, the Ayin, and the Dalet. YAHd. Now some people argue, well, the Ayin, there's no pronunciation of it's A. Well, come on, folks. Do your homework. It's YAHd. It's right in front of you. It's very easy to understand. So, again, people are changing things. They're adding and taking away. No surprise there, and it's very helpful. So this is why we say again, the renewed covenant with the emissary Shaul, now known today as Paul, in Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. Let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking or in respect of a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths. The Greek for new moon is what? New moon. The new moon, first of the month. It doesn't matter where you go in Scripture. You cannot replace the word moon with month. The YaRach is the moon. It was made for appointed times. The word Kodesh, which means month, represents the first day of any given scriptural month, whether you're looking in the ancient Hebrew, Abadi texts, and or the Greek. Doesn't matter what you look at. So as you can see, very easy to explain. And this is why replacement YaHology, regrettably, is alive and well, as horrific as it is. People change things at will. They think they know better. They're running off their gut, which is nothing more than cognitive bias. So again, the punchline, or the main question. Why are the many attempting to replace the scriptural word moon with month? Well, they have to. If you're a solar-only calendar, you have to get rid of the word moon. It's very inconvenient. And you have to replace it with the word month. The moon can't be for appointed times. You have to replace it with month. So this happens with, again, there's no such thing as an Enoch solar calendar. It's a lie. We've gone through these videos in great detail. There's no such thing as a lunar Sabbath only. Again, the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH, like a wristwatch, works on 3 witnesses, sun, moon, and stars. Not one luminary. All 3 working together in perfect harmony to tell time, and in this case, the Moahadim, the appointed times of YaHUaH, which includes new moon days, the first day of each and any given scriptural month, which we can actually film and photograph the signs that they make, because the YaRach, the moon, and stars do indeed rule by night, 4 night watches. And why? Because the Father, YaHUaH, and his kindness is everlasting. Really basic. Again, he made the moon for appointed times, and there's no way to get around it. That word is not month. It's YaRach, it's moon. Do not let anyone attempt to deceive you, because their intentions are what? They want to have a solar-only calendar. or some other makeup that is non-scriptural. So this is why we focus on Amos 8, chapter 8, verse 5, and we focus on the appointed times. And this is why the main reason is commercialism. If you can create a calendar that's not based with the lesser light, well, then it's a lot easier for commercialism now, isn't it? Ho, 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 shop, shop, shop. So it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not teaching anything. I'm not a teacher. I don't have any prophetic ability. This is basic scriptural passages, iron sharpening iron, scripture here, scripture over there, a little here, a little there, command upon command, and so forth. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm not a smart guy, but I can research. So again, just number your days. Take a pen and paper and get into the scriptures and see what they say for the first month of Abib, including the very first day of the first month of Abib, which was a festival. They were celebrating when the ark hit the ground. So, really basic. Get into the scriptures, number your days, find out what the seventh month is all about and why it starts off with Yom Teruah, or trumpets, blowing the ram's horn at the time of the new moon, at the full moon. Get into it. It's really basic. And then there are some saying, well, wait a minute. Isn't the calendar a 7-day continuous cycle? Well, that's a loaded question. It is, but not in the way the world has duped each and every one of us. I'm so embarrassed that I was so easily deceived by the Roman Catholic Church. I thought Sunday was the Sabbath. It's a continuous cycle, is what they told me. But when I got into the scriptures, what did I find? Well, the very first day is consecrated. It's separated, set apart, if you will. It's Kodesh, Kadesh in this case. So then, 7 days later, starting from the second day of the first week to the 8th day is the first Sabbath. That's what the scriptural verses state. And you can track it with Moshe's writings. So 8th day was a Sabbath. We know the 15th day was a Sabbath of the 7th month. That's when Sukkot starts. We know that the 15th day was a high Sabbath, which starts on leavened bread. None of this is rocket science. So the Sabbaths are on the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th days. That's what Scripture says. But the Roman Catholic Church, of which, out of the total countries on earth, there are only 5 that do not utilize the Gregorian, but they use it for their commercial purposes. This calendar is not accommodating anything from the world. Why would it? It's from YaHUaH. So the second week after the Sabbath, the first day of the second week is always the 9th day. The 7th day Sabbath is on the 15th. Third week, the 16th day is always the first day of the week after the Sabbath. 7th day is the 22nd. That's the next Sabbath. And the fourth and final week, the 28th day is always the first day of the week, the work day. And then the 29th day is always the fourth and final Sabbath. Again, there are 29 and 30-day months in YaHUaH's calendar. And some people are going, well, wait a minute, you can't divide 7 by that. Well, you can if you follow this model. Now think about what I'm about to say. The Gregorian calendar has 28-day months, 29-day months, 30-day months, and 31-day months. So why can't the Father of Lights have 29 and 30-day months? And furthermore, if you understand this calendar, you'll understand why the prophet Enoch had 177 days in the first half of the year, which demands 29 and 30-day months, if you can count basic math. So this is not being rude, it's just what it is. But the world is not going to accept this. They are weekend warriors. Muslims with a Friday worship day, the Jews with a Saturday worship day, and some Messianic movements, and then the Christian movements, Sunday. They're weekend warriors. It's world religions. This is what we're supposed to come out of. Do you know that there is no word for weekend? Some people try to associate the word weekend with weakened. The world's weakened. They're not being wise. And this is where we get YAHsome, or Revelation chapter 13, and all the earth marveled after the beast. Again, Hashatan is alive and well. He's been given authority over this world, and he's going to make sure, he's going to do his best to ensure that no one follows the very first page of Scripture, let alone Moshe's writings, let alone learn the signs that the sun, moon, and stars do for each new moon day, Sabbath, and feast day. Again, when does the new moon pass that we sell grain in the Sabbath so that we trade our wheat to make the ephah small and the shekel large? Profit, greed of gain, and to falsify the scales by deceit. Ho, 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 shop, 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 enjoy commercialism. And you're all experiencing this as I am today. There's no such thing as economy anymore. The word economy means to be frugal. This world is not frugal. We cover this in greater detail in Man's Weekly Cycle versus YaHUaH's Weekly Cycle and the Weekend Warriors, the Road to Coexistence from the Second Babylon, who intends to change times and law, Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, and then a modern version of this very same video we did 7 years ago to what do you mean there's no such thing as a 7-day continuous weekly cycle? There is a 7-day weekly cycle within each month, but it doesn't go continuous. It's committed to that 1 month with 29 and 30-day months. Very easy to prove. We cover this even further with the Qumran calendar, solar-only calendars, which are totally non-scriptural. Very easy to prove in the historical record. And because there was chaos, and there was a great debate that you can read about in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we call this the Qumran calendar chaos. And then we come to the Analemma dilemma and Roman commotion study. Please take the time, if you really want to know the historical record of what happened to the very first page of Scripture and how men and their world religious traditions all through time have changed it, you may be interested. So, teach us how to number our days. Let us bring the heart to wisdom. It's not men or women. It's YaHUaH, the Father of lights, with his sun, moon, and stars. All three witnesses of light interpreting Scripture according to Scripture. Now, that's not for everyone now, is it? So, why are the many attempting to replace the word moon with month? Pretty basic, right? What then is a restored new moon day? Let's explore that. Again, we allow Scripture to interpret Scripture, which is known as a process as exegesis, which is the exposition or explanation of a text based on a careful objective analysis. The word exegesis literally means to lead out of, come out of this world. That means that the interpreter is led to their conclusions, his or her, by following the text. Think of it this way. YaHUaH, now known today as John in chapter 16, verse 13. But when the Ruach HaKodesh comes, the Spirit of truth shall guide you into all truth. This is what we're attempting to do, because as the prophet Yeshayahu had stated, for it is command upon command, command upon command, line upon line upon line, here a little, there a little. All of these items are repeated twice. It's almost like wake up. It's iron sharpening iron, not the opinions of two people, but command upon command, line upon line upon line, here a little, there a little. It's Scripture interpreting Scripture. Again, if you're in an assembly today that you're going there to listen to people's opinions versus another person's opinion, you're missing the boat, so to speak. So that's exegesis as compared to what is known as eisegesis. And that is the opposite approach of exegesis, is eisegesis, which is the interpretation of Scripture based on a subjective, non-analytical reading. The word eisegesis literally means to lead into, to lead astray, which is shasha, or sha'ah, to be smeared over, blinded, or to be in a hurry, husha. Why? Well, the interpreter wants to tickle the ears of another. They're looking for sensationalism. They're looking for attention. So again, eisegesis means to lead into something that's a lie, which means the interpreter injects his or her own ideas into the text, making it mean whatever they want. And YaHUaH, in 1 John chapter 4, verse 6, this is what's called being led by the spirit of error, to be shashad, or to be sha'ad, smeared over and blinded. It's a process of cognitive dissonance, regrettably, that leads to cognitive bias. Again, the Yabba Dabba Doo free-for-all Hebrew crew is regrettably alive and well. It's Rasha. Rasha means to be wicked, to be deceitful. It's to jest and disprove. Don't trust what the Scripture shares. Don't roll your sleeves up and find out what the original letters and words actually meant, let alone how they were pronounced by utilizing other words. So again, the appointed times, and it shall be from new moon. So that new moon is repaired. It's Kadash, not Kadasha. It's repaired. It's renewed. Well, the synonym for renew and repair is restored. Everyone knows this. And we get further information from the book of Numbers, or Bemidbar, chapter 28, verse 11. And on the beginnings of your months. That's Rosh, not Rasha. Remember, Rasha means wicked. Rosh means head. On the first day of each month. So if you read Numbers 28, verse 11, with all the translations that are available, on the first day of each month, you bring near a burnt offering to YaHUaH. Again, Rosh, beginnings, the head, the first day of each month. Very basic. So months here is Kodesh, new moon and new month, the first day of a new month. Very basic. Again, months to renew, repair. Kadash means to renew, repair. Restored is the synonym. He made the moon for appointed times. That Kodesh is renewed. That new month, that first day, that moon, that YaHUaH is restored. Blow the ram's horn at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our festival day. Again, full moon is Kesah. Full moon, Kesah, first day of a month. How do we know this? Well, the YaHUaH is full, and Enoch tells us this. And as you can see in Enoch chapter 78, verse 12 and verse 13, and I did this again, made a mistake here. Let me correct it while I'm going through the video. Verse 13, let's get that up. Okay, so on the first day she is called the new moon. Now here is Enoch once again verifying that all the other scriptural verses corroborate as well. Harmony, collaboration, no confusion, no chaos. On the first day she is called new moon, for on that day the light rises upon her. Kesah, full moon. Full moon. It's not a conjunction or crescent. And again, the moon and stars rule by night. Do you not realize that a crescent moon doesn't rule the whole night through? A full moon does. It goes through all 4 night watches. Crescent and conjunction moons don't do that. In fact, a conjunction moon is up in the day period and it blocks the sun, and this is where you get solar eclipses. Everyone knows this. So this is why the moon was made for appointed times, because it rules the whole night through. She becomes full moon, the first day of every month, exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west. And from the east she rises at night. Just read the text. It's Kesah, full moon, first day of a month. When the sun sets in the west, and from the east she rises at night, and the moon shines the whole night through. Crescent and conjunction moons do not do that. Till the sun rises over against her, which is the dawn. And if you ever got out in the dawn, that light rises over the moon. That first light. And the moon is seen over against the sun. This is not month. On the first day she is called the month. No. She becomes the month exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west. No, it's full moon. And the month shines the whole night through. No, the moon does, the YaHUaH. This is kindergarten stuff, but again, if you don't have any other intentions. And again, stop the video now for the old covenant, renewed covenant, let alone what the taught one's done or completed for a dawn day start. It's Scripture interpreting Scripture. Exegesis at its best. So this is why only a full moon rules with the stars and gives you signs for the appointed times. You don't need apps and all the rest of it. Once you learn what the signs are, you can go outside for yourself. If the power goes off, no harm, no foul. You can rely on YaHUaH only. Again, the light on a lampstand. Crescent and conjunction moons are not a light on a lampstand. if you know how they work. They wait for a crescent at sunset. It's not a light on a lampstand. So again, very basic to explain. Stop the video, or better yet, take a look at each and every visual that we provide in the inbox, description box of the YouTube channel, or email us. So take a look at these words. So YAHsome, full moon, first day of a month. Psalms, chapter 81, verse 3, full moon. Mishlei, or Proverbs, which means truth, chapter 7, verse 20, he comes home on the day of the new moon. So if you read this verse, and you know the story behind it, there was an unfaithful woman, that was having an affair with another man, and the man that was having the affairs said, hey, when does your husband come home? And she states, well, he comes home on the day of the new moon. Why? Well, it's a consecrated day. They went to the temple from new moon to new moon and Sabbath to Sabbath. They went to the temple on new moon days and Sabbaths and feast days. So at the end of the day, this lady who was unfaithful, and this story, a very regrettable story, is also another witness. And YAHsome, full moon, in this case is used in the Proverbs, meaning truth, Mishlei today, chapter 7, verse 20. There's tons of witnesses. Even in the Greek, as we already talked about, is the moon. And it's pronounced Selene, the moon. YaHUaH. Read verses from Luke, Acts, 1 Corinthians, and Revelation. You can only get a lunar eclipse with a full moon. Think about that for a moment. Do not confuse this with the crescent moon goddess, Selene. That's a crescent moon goddess. Totally two different things. And why the very first chapter of YaHuaH states, YaHUaH was so disgusted with this practice of crescent moon worship. Very easy to explain. So remember something else. It was a solar eclipse during the murder on the stake of the Mashiach Yahushua. That can only happen as the moon is going into a conjunction state. And think about it. When he rose, they couldn't see him. They couldn't make out his face. If, which it's not true, it's non-scriptural, people say, no, it's a full moon during Passover. Well, no, it's not. If it was, they would have been able to observe or see the face of the Mashiach Yahushua. They couldn't make him out. And all of you know, if you go out on a full moon night, you will be able to make out the facial features of anybody standing around you. So, excellent video that draws that out as well. We glean that also in this video. The Lamb rises after 3 days and 3 nights. Yes, the Lamb, the morning star. So anyways, you may enjoy and glean further value from these two clips. As well, Enoch stated clearly that in chapter 78, verse 8, and all her remaining light disappears wholly on the 15th day of any scriptural month. This is not rocket science. And you can track any day and what that moon phase is. It's percent illumination. It's degrees to true north, and it's degrees to the horizon. This video draws that out as well, which we did 2 years ago. Again, if you're interested. So, what then is restored new moon day? Yeah, it's restored. It's renewed. It's made full. So again, YAHsome, full moon, first day of a month, just like Enoch stated. Kodesh, new moon, new month, first day of that new month. Notice Kadash, to repair. Not Kadasha, Kadash. Verb. It's a verb. So it is a solar-powered moon. A verb means an action. It's a solar-powered moon. So that's the verb. The sun is renewing it, giving its various phases on any given day, all the way up till the first day when she becomes full moon, the night before new moon day. The adjective is kadash. So again, an adjective describes something. It's full, it's restored, it's renewed. So again, even a Sesame Street exercise, even a child would know what Grover would say from Sesame Street. Here's an old house. Here's the very same house, renewed, painted, renewed, restored. This isn't rocket science. So a crescent moon or a conjunction moon is old. A full moon is renewed. Kesa. Selah. Think about it. Ponder. So, what then is a restored new moon day? Well, if you allow Scripture to interpret Scripture, you'll go with that. If you trust the opinions of men and women, you'll probably do something else. And on to the final category. Number 3. Is a new moon day set apart, or is a month? So remember, all those folks out there saying that a month is the word. There's no such thing as the word moon. It's month. There's no YaHUaH. Well, that would mean the month is consecrated. Apartness. And yes, it is more correct to say apartness rather than set apart. It's Kodesh. Notice, total different entry, but the same pronunciation as the first day of a month. Coincidence? Of course not. Scripture interprets Scripture. It leads you to the light, not to shadows or darkness. So again, apartness. So the first day of every month is consecrated. Well, let's talk about that a little further. Again, the moon, the lesser light, the YaHUaH, is for appointed times. But to number our days, when you beg YaHUaH to teach you, like you beg him, you cry out to him, you shua to him, please teach me how this works so that my heart can be brought to wisdom. Well, what does the word wisdom have to do with YaHUaH, the moon, let alone the Moedim, the appointed times? What does wisdom have to do with it? And is it associated to a month? Let alone is it associated to the moon being made for appointed times, the YaHUaH. What does wisdom, the word wisdom, scripturally have to do with all this? Well, this word wisdom comes from the Strong's entry H2451. It's a noun, it's feminine, it's chakma. Some people pronounce it hakma. Not with the CH, it's hakma. Wisdom. It comes from the root word hakam, which is a verb. So again, you have a noun, wisdom, which is a thing, a noun is a thing, a verb is an action. So how do I learn what wisdom is, the noun, and what actions do I have to do to become wise? Verb is an action. So how do I come from hakma to hakam? How do I do that in order to be kodesh, set apart? How do I do that? Well, is the first day of a month Kadash, set apart, consecrated, or is a month? No, it's the first day of a month. How do we know this? Well, the parent root hum, which we get those other words from, means heat, and it is the root of the word hakam, which means wisdom. The word hum appears in its original pictographic script, as we can see here. The letter He and the letter Mem. The letter He is a picture of a wall which separates one side from another. And the letter Mem is a picture of water. Combined, these two letters literally mean separate water. So as an example, when heat, hum, is applied to water, we have evaporation, or a separating of water. Now I'm getting this information from the source called the Torah, a mechanical translation by and from Jeff E. Benner. It goes on to say in that study, the following Hebrew words are all derived from the parent root ham, which we get hamet, skin bag, hema, cheese, hama, sun, hamas, to shake, hamad, to crave or desire, hamatz, to sour. Furthermore, while we can plainly see the root hum at the beginning of each of these words, what may not be as plainly viewed or seen is how the meanings of each of these words are related. So, as an example, soured milk, hamatz, was placed in a skin bag, hemet, that was set out in the heat, hum, of the sun, hama, and shaken, hamaz. The natural enzymes in the skin bag causes the water to separate, hum, from the milk, forming the delicacy, hamad, cheese, known as hama. Welcome to apartness, kodesh, wisdom. So, what does all this have to do with wisdom? Hakam is related to the idea of separating, apartness, like kodesh, as this word means one who is able to separate between what is good and bad. This one word, wisdom, can be translated as either skill when applied to a craftsman, or as wise when applied to a Berean rightly handling the word of truth. As an example, in 2 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 7, and now send for me a skillful, a hakam, person to work in gold, to refine that gold, to take out the impurities, to refine it, utilizing heat. So, very basic to explain, but you got to roll your sleeves up. You can't go by your gut. You can't have cognitive bias. You can't trust people. Get into the actual words. So, wisdom is a noun. It's a thing. It's hakmah. And to become wise, the verb is hakam, which we just read. So there's a lot to it. So this is why people that want to remove the word moon and replace it with month, you know it's not wise. It's not using all three witnesses of light. So take a look at these words. Kesah, full moon, first day of a month. Kodesh, first day of a new moon, a new month, as we've read. Kadash, to renew or repair. Kadash, it doesn't mean month or moon. It's talking about the moon being renewed or repaired. Why people use Kadash for a new moon day from Strong's H2318 behooves me. It confuses me. Furthermore, H2019, it's an adjective. It means new. So this is why you have to know your words. And again, don't just use the actual words here. Go to the scriptural verses that they're used to understand the context in which they are being utilized. Very easy to do, especially with all the apps today. And here's where it gets really great. You get the word Kadash, entry 6942, which means to be set apart or consecrated. So a new moon day is set apart, it's consecrated. And this is where you get the word Kodesh, apartness. They're related, 6944, 6942. But you would miss this if you're in a husha, if you're in a hurry, if you just want to tickle the ears of other people. Again, I use the example of, some of the apps that are today with a 30-second to 3-minute attention span. Tickle talk. Tickle the ears, tickle talk. Insta-gaff. Tons of mistakes because they don't do a full and complete study. And you get this activity sometimes on Facebook as well. This is why we stick to YouTube, because it gives you the opportunity to do a better or complete a better full and complete study. As you're seeing here, it takes time. So the word 6942 on that entry, Kadash, to be set apart or consecrated, is from Kodesh, which is 6944. Apartness. So stop the video. Again, 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 17. This scriptural verse in its proper context uses these words properly, and it talks about the first day of the first month being consecrated. And what did they do on the first day of the first month? Scripture is laced with the offerings that existed. They were more detailed than even on a Sabbath. And they also consecrated priests on the first day of a scriptural month. It's a consecrated day from new moon to new moon. It's not from month to month. It's from the first day of each and every month. And from Sabbath to Sabbath, all shall come and worship me. Again, 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 17. They consecrated priests on this day as well. It's a consecrated day. It's a worship day. Consecrated days are worship days. But you're going to get some silliness out there. They're going to call it Rasha Kadasha. Rasha means wicked. So if you want to know if you're wicked or not, that's Rasha. And some people are using Kadasha. So they say the first of the month, Rasha Kadasha. Rasha is wicked. Kadasha actually means temple prostitute. It's hilarious. So I'm not mocking any person. I am drawing out how they have been caught in tickle talk, tickling the ears. They go to this secret place that no one else can go to, and they think they've got their finger on the pulse. This is the mystery of Yabba-dabba-doo Hebrew, and we started talking about this way back when, well before the YouTube channel, how the Roman Catholic Church changed words, names, and the law because they wanted their own system. They wanted to rule over others. They wanted to tickle the ears of others. That's the mystery of the Yabba-dabba-doo Hebrew movement, starting from all of those observations way back when that regrettably has filtered into Messianic and Hebrew roots movements. It is very, very regrettable and horrific at the same time. So, we utilize all 3 witnesses to tell time, sun, moon, and stars, because they provide signs for days and years and the appointed times, which include new moon days, Sabbaths, and the feast days. That's the wisdom. That's how to be separated from the world. At least that's what the Scripture tells us, if you allow Scripture to interpret Scripture. If you're still interested in the opinions of men and women, you will not come to these conclusions. You'll possibly have a solar calendar only, where you're a Christian and you do Sunday worship. You might be a Seventh-day Adventist or a Jewish person with Saturday worship. You may be a Muslim with Friday worship. But at the end of the day, you've been led by the beast. You've given the authority over to the Roman Catholic Church to number your days for you. You're not allowing YaHUaH to number your days. If you are of the circle of the erroneous Enoch, let alone, Dead Sea Scrolls and Qumran community and the various versions there, again, you're not using all 3 witnesses. If you're a lunar model only, you're in trouble. And if you're not led by abib and you allow yourself to be led by the constellation art and lines of human beings, then you could be in trouble as well. So there's a lot to it. No different than a wristwatch. None of us, if we're humble enough to admit, figured out how a wristwatch or a wall clock worked in a day, a week, or a month. It took time. You weren't in a husha. Your parents had patience with you. So, when you share this with others, you have to have patience. It will be challenging at times. And again, the moon was made for appointed times. Yarak. That word is not month. If anybody tries to tell you that, let them know the actual information. Don't get in the fight. Just share the information. Share the wisdom. Hakmah. For the Mohadim. Very basic. Again, like the moon, it is established forever, and the witness in the heavens is steadfast. That moon is steadfast. You can forecast in advance thousands of years. You can go back thousands of years. It allows you to go outside to know when to look and where to look. Yarak, moon. Now, some people ask me, you don't seem to get frustrated. No, I just share the information. Persistence over resistance. It's almost like herding cats. You just keep sharing the information. Now, there's a joke out there that, herding cats is not something that's real, but it proves a point in context. If you've ever tried to herd cats, it's very difficult. If you had a litter of cats, cats do their own thing. They don't allow to be ruled. to get cats all on the same page or in the same room, it's very difficult. So I'll end this video with a little bit of humor to give you an idea. Don't get frustrated with this. Don't be in a YaHUaH. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in haste. Herding cats can be challenging at times.
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He's the first cat herder in our family.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half-wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here, and if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, You
see the movies, you hear the stories, I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
It ain't an easy job, but when you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost a one of them, ain't a feeling like it in the world.
So, in a sense, if you're sharing the 3 witnesses of light that were given to us to tell time, this is what we do. It can be challenging. It's like herding cats. Be joyous that you have the opportunity to be part of this journey in regards to sharing why the moon, the YaHUaH, is for appointed times. Don't get frustrated if someone is trying to share with you that get rid of the moon, it's month, get rid of the stars as well. We're only going to go with a solar model only. Don't get frustrated with conjunction and crescent lunar models only. Again, it can be challenging. It's cat herding from a humorous, contextual point of view. Some of you may be offended by this video, but at the end of the day, it's fun. Have fun with this. It's joyous. The appointed times are to be of joy. Wisdom is to be joyous. I'm not a teacher, I'm not a prophet, but I do have joy. I'm a Berean scriptural study student. The best I can do is work up my own deliverance. I can't work out anybody else's, but I can share research. Like the moon is established forever, the YaHUaH, not month. So again, cat herding is what it is. It can be challenging. Don't get frustrated, even though it can be very difficult at times. Be steadfast. So, this is the conclusion of the 3 categories in this particular scriptural study. And as always, we cry out, we call out to YaHUaH, YaHsome, that he continues to keep each and every one of us. So until next time, may the Mashiach Yahushua be in everything we say and do. Have a YAHsome day, everyone.